In this section we need to look at two things. First of all, if one of your workflow fails, you need to understand it immediately. You want to have a trigger node, an error trigger node. So if something fails, you want to get, for example, an email so that you can fix it fast. This is especially important if you have workflows that get executed, for example, every day. Or if you have workflows that are for clients or for other people. Maybe you made a business out of these, or you have automated your own business. It's really crucial that you understand if one of your workflows fails. And that's why I need to show you how you can integrate the error node the correct way. You can basically have a close eye at all of your workflows all day long, completely automatical. And if something breaks, you can fix it. And next, we also need to take a closer look at webhooks. In n8n we have a lot of webhooks. I want to make a practical example. A lot of people know that I also like the tool Flowise to build AI agents. And we will build a small agent into Flowise, and then we will make a webhook in n8n, and we will call our n8n workflow out from Flowise. This is just so that you can understand that we can access n8n from everywhere. With these webhooks you can do whatever you want. You can use webhooks also for calling it from Telegram, for calling it through other workflows, to calling it from Flowise, to call it from wherever. These webhooks are really great because we send HTTP requests and you can access these things from everywhere. So see you of course in the next video, because first we need to fix your workflows. Until now you have created a lot of different workflows, and especially if you make these workflows public, if they should work all the time, if they maybe should work also for clients, it's important for you that you can always see if these workflows are working or not. If your workflows are broken, you need to find this immediately. So that's why I want to show you in this video how we can make an error workflow. This error workflow will simply send you an email as soon as one of your workflows breaks. This is really important. Let me show you how we can do this. So debugging will get a lot easier because you always find the problems faster and ideally before your clients find these problems. So let's just build out this workflow. We press create workflow, we press plus. What we want to have is the error trigger node, so we simply press on these, and we also press fetch test event. We simply need this test event later in order to work with these. Then we press plus once again, and what I want to do right now is to use the Gmail node, because I want to get a message or an email as soon as one of my workflows is breaking down. So we use send a message. I am connected with my Gmail credentials, of course, resource this message, the operation is sent. Then we need to type in, of course, our email number. Let's just use this thing here. I want to have a subject that immediately tells me what workflow is broken. So I come on expressions, I make this big, and I simply want to say, for example, workflow, we use this name, the example workflow is broken. Or failed, or whatever you want to call it. Failed is broken. You can do this however you want. I want to read immediately in my subject line that one of my workflows is broken. The email type, I like to use text, but you can also use HTML. Then the message, let's just also go on expression and we make this big. I want to start with workflow. This thing once again, and we can also say is broken. Then what I want to have is date and time, two curly braces. We want to have now, of course. Last node is also something that I want to include. We have here the last node executed, because this thing is the thing that fails most likely later. And lastly, we want to have the error message. So the error message is simply this here, example error message. We can call this details or whatever. I can simply throw this in and then we get some details here. Or also let's just call this details. Then lastly, damn, because we hate it if something is breaking. And maybe also the error stack. And the error stack is of course this thing down here. Then we have everything included. And let's just close this down. So this is actually fine. Then lastly, the append n8n attribution, we just leave it on, because this is completely okay that in this email that I get is always included that this thing comes from n8n, so this is fine for me. So basically we have this error workflow, but this is just the first part here. Now let's just give this a name. Let's just call it error trigger, for example. or error workflow trigger, and we save this thing. Now before I want to show you how we can use this, we simply test this workflow and we want to see if I get my mail or not. I got my mail. Workflow, example workflow is broken. Date and time is this thing here. Last note, note with error, details, example, error message, damn, error stack, the stack trace. And this was sent by n8n, so this works. But right now, of course, we need to integrate this error workflow into another workflow. And then if the other workflow fails, we get all the details immediately as email. This is what we are doing with this thing. So the test event is working. So let's just come to overview, create workflow. We make a new workflow. I want to start with an unscheduled workflow. And I want to have something that works like every minute, for example. So every minute this workflow should do something for me, and as soon as this thing is breaking, we will get our email. So this thing should be okay. Then I press plus, the advanced AI. Let's just use an AI agent. I want to do something quick, something easy here. Then we use a chat model. Yes, let's just use OpenAI as the chat model with GPT-4o mini. This is completely fine. By the way, we have GPT 4.5 here, but I think this is way too expensive, so we will never work with these. We do not want to have any memory, but we want to have, for example, a system prompt. So we add a system prompt. The system message is, you are a helpful assistant. No, you write stories about animals. You write short stories about animals, and I also want to copy the system message. We come back here, defined below. The text, we also always want to have a hard-coded prompt here, or let's just fix it a little bit. Write a short story about a animal. This is just a stupid example, test step. And there we have a short story, so this is fine. So what this workflow is doing right now is to write short stories about animals all day long. Yes, this is a stupid example, but this is just for testing purposes. Of course, you can make this agent bigger. This can be any agent that you want. This can be every single workflow that you simply want to make. So let's just assume that this would be an agent that writes us every single minute a story about animals. Maybe the stories can get posted on LinkedIn or something else, but we will just leave it as simple as this. Then you can make this active later, of course, but first we want to include our trigger node. If we simply press here and we go on settings, first of all, of course, make sure that you use the right time zone, because if not, you will get problems with these. So Berlin is our time zone. We simply press save. Now we have this right here. Then we press once again. We go once again on settings, and then you also find this right here, error workflow. Now you can press on error workflow, and here we need to find the error workflow trigger, of course. It's this thing down here, so we press on it, and then we press save. Now our other workflow is connected with this workflow, and if this workflow is breaking, we will get the email that this workflow is no longer working. First, I want to show you when our other workflow does not get triggered. If this workflow gets from inactive to active and works every single minute, writes here on executions every single minute the stupid stories about animals, then of course our other workflow will not get triggered. Let's just wait until our next story comes through. So there we are, our workflow is running. This will most likely work, and if this thing is working, of course we will get no error node. So boom, this thing is working, so no problem at all. If I come back into the editor and I send this from active to inactive, this was no problem. If I press test workflow and this thing is green, it's also no problem. And then I want to show you also something special. If I simply press test workflow and also this thing is broken, then it's also no problem. It will just be a problem as soon as we have this from inactive to active, and if we have then some problems. So if I make here, for example, by ID, and I use the wrong model, for example, we will get problems with our API calls, or maybe like your credits are gone from OpenAI. If I press test workflow right now, of course, this thing has failed right now. But if I come back into overview, let's just save this. and I come into my error workflow trigger and I come in executions, you see that I did not get an execution. So right now it's this time here, so this was just our old execution that we did manually with our testing event. So basically nothing happened here. And now I want to show you when something is happening. If I come back to my animal story thing here once again, and let's just use this also here once again, and I sent this right now from inactive to active. Right now, in 1 minute at least, we will have a new execution and the new execution will fail. So this is the old thing that we did right now. This failed, this was no problem. But right now we are active, and as soon as I have my next execution that is active, boom, there we have it. Right now we have failed, and at least in theory, I should get my warning right now. If I come back into the error workflow trigger and I come back into executions, right now you see that we had an execution right now at this minute. And if I come back into my mails, let's just see, you see that we have a mail here. Workflow animal story failed. If I press on it, we can see the details. Workflow animal story is broken. Date and time, this date and time. Last node, the AI agent node was not working. Details, the resource you are requesting could not be found. Damn! And here is the error stack, so you can basically just go on, throw this into ChatGPT and ask for a quick moment what is wrong with this thing. So this is really cool. And if we come back here into my mails once again, in theory, we should get this mail every minute. Boom, there you see it, 1 minute later, and we still got the next mail because our workflow needs to be get triggered every single minute. And that's why I will get like every single minute a mail that my workflow is not working. So I really get hammered with these. This is of course just as an example, so you need to see this as an example. This animal story will get triggered every minute so that we don't need to wait for a whole day here. But this is especially important if you have, for example, workflows that get executed once a day, twice a day, or maybe also just once or twice a week. And maybe you would not find it out that these workflows are not working. This is extremely important. If this workflow fails, you have no chance in knowing this without this workflow trigger node. Right now you see you get hammered with these mails and you know exactly what workflow is broken, and then you can come back, you send this from active to inactive, and you can simply press this workflow again, then you find that this thing is broken, then you will maybe find why this thing is broken, you will fix it, and as soon as this thing is fixed once again, with like a mini model, a model that actually exists, you can press this workflow again, and as soon as this is working, you can send it from inactive once again back to active, and then you will have no longer any problems, and you will also get no longer hammered with mails that you have failures in your workflows. So in this video you have learned how we can use the error workflow node. It's really easy. We make a new workflow, we call it error workflow. You can simply connect this workflow with your Gmail account, but also with Slack or with whatever. You can make yourself a message wherever you want. We connect some details so that we get some details through as soon as some of our workflow is breaking. Then of course you need to integrate this workflow in the other workflows that you want to control. If you have a workflow active, and a workflow should work like automatically with, for example, a time trigger, it's of course crucial that you understand if something is breaking, because if something is breaking, you can fix it immediately. This is also important if you host stuff for people. Maybe you integrate a chatbot into a web page from one of your clients. If such a workflow is failing, you need to see this immediately and then fix your workflow. This is important, you should totally do this. And make sure to always control that you have here on settings the right time zone for you, especially if you test this locally, because if not, this can make some problems. And the same thing is also true in your error workflow node. Please make sure that you use the same time. And also give here date and time in the message, and then you are ready and you can simply try this out yourself. Have fun fixing your bugs, even if fixing bugs never makes fun. But at least right now you will find them fast. In this video we take a closer look at two things. First of all, we will build an AI agent with Flowise. For everybody that knows me from other courses, they probably know that I like Flowise. Flowise is super easy to use and you can make AI agents really fast. And that's basically the biggest benefit of Flowise. But Flowise has also a little bit of downsides. In Flowise it's harder to do, like send mails and call a lot of other tools. But we also have a tool that is called the custom tool. And with this custom tool we can call webhooks. And that's why we will cover two things in this video. So first of all, how we can create an AI agent with Flowise, and second, how to use webhooks in n8n. I think after this video you understand how you can connect every tool with n8n, how you can connect every webhook with n8n, and we will have a lot of fun. So basically the first thing that you can do is to go on Flowise. If you want more information about Flowise, I have a whole course on it. Basically it also runs in Node.js. You can install it. It's open source, you can find it on GitHub, you will find the whole installation here, it's really easy to do. You can install it in Node.js with these commands, or you can also host it in Render, just like I did right here. So basically this thing is hosted on Render. Then we can come to agent flows and we press add new, and then we are in this canvas. And in this canvas we can make agents, and it's extremely easy. We just want to start with a really easy agent. We use a supervisor, we can simply drag and drop this things in here, and we use, let's just say, two workers. So basically here are LLMs that are communicating with each other. I can duplicate this thing. Now I can connect my supervisor with this worker. Boom, there we are. It's really that easy. And every time you see these red stars, you need to connect something. We need a tool calling chat model. We just use a chat model, so we press on chat models, and we use once again OpenAI, because I think these OpenAI things, they work relatively good. So let's just use chat OpenAI. And we can simply connect the chat and OpenAI node with our supervisor. Of course, we need to give credentials. I just use n8n Flowise because I have already credentials. This is basically just our API key from OpenAI. Then we need to choose a model. I don't want to use GPT 4.5 preview because this is a little bit too expensive for me. I just want to have GPT-4 Omni. This works completely fine for me. Now we need to give these workers some names, and also some prompts and maybe some tools. What I want to create is a research agent that can search, for example, about stock prices, and the second agent will basically make just a summary or something like this, and then we want to call via webhook n8n, and in n8n we will make a simple automation how we can store this data, for example, in Google Sheets. This is just so that you can understand how all of this is working. So you can basically make for yourself whatever you want. And if you want to build out prototype agents, I think Flowise is the fastest way to go, because here we can build a lot faster than in n8n. You see it, basically we have our whole structure. Now we just need to prompt. I want to call my first agent, for example, the research agent, and now we give our second agent a name. Let's just call it the Sheets agent. Now we need to write the prompts. So we make this big, and now we give our first worker a prompt. We will delete this standard prompt and use something like this. You are a research assistant who can search up-to-date info using the search engine. You have the tool SERP API and you search stock info and news. You pass your info always to the Sheets agent. So basically there we have it, and we press save. Now we need to connect our first tool, and in order to do that we simply press plus. We come down to tools, there they are. And what I want to use, you can also use the Brave Search API, a lot of other tools like the calculator, the code interpreter, the custom tool, we will take a closer look at this later, the Google custom search, the read file, the request get for HTTP get requests, the HTTP post request, a retriever tool, the search API, and what I like to use is right now the SERP API. So we simply throw in the SERP API and we connect the SERP API here with this tool. And what we need to do right now is to make new credentials if you do not have any. So I already have credentials, but let's just make new ones. We press on create credentials and we call it n8n course test, for example. And then we need to go to the SERP API. So you basically press on it. We sign in if we already have an account. Come to API keys. We can create either a new one or simply copy the key that I already have here. Then we come back to Flowise and we throw in my new SERP API key. So we simply insert it and we press add. Now we can search the SERP API for up-to-date information about stocks. And now we need the Sheets agent. I want to give the Sheets agent a prompt. You are a helpful assistant and extract this data from the research agent, stock ticker and stock price. Nothing else, just stock ticker and stock price. You have a custom tool named Create Sheet and use it every time to send a post request with stock ticker and stock price. So that's basically it. We want to extract this information from our first query. So the first query will give us also some information, and the second agent will simply extract stock ticker and stock price. And right now, of course, we need once again a tool, so we press plus. We come down to this tools once again, and we need to use the custom tool. We insert the custom tool, we throw it here on this tool agent, and now once again we need to give this a name, of course. Or actually, before we do this, before we will give the second custom tool, we should simply see if this thing is working or not. In order to make it work better, we should come to the supervisor, press add additional parameters, make it big, and here we give a little bit more information. You use the research agent to find the information, and afterward you send the results to the Sheets agent. You always use both workers. First research agent, then the Sheets agent. Then we save this. Now this is basically set up. We do not have any tools right now, but first we should test this thing out if this thing is working or not. Because if it doesn't work, it makes no sense to make this custom tool. So right now we are set. We press save here. We come here on the chat node and we ask something like this. TSLA, news and price, for example. Now this agent should at least in theory work. The supervisor triggers our research agent. The research agent will go on and search the web. As soon as we have the information from the web, hopefully we will get the information back. There we are. The research agent basically did a lot of searches. Let's just wait and see. So there we are. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 web searches. And we also have the stock price. So the current price is this price right here. The previous close is this. Then the exchange is from the Nasdaq. Then we have all the latest news also with links included. Then our supervisor goes on and triggers our Sheets agent. And the Sheets agent simply gives us here stock ticker TSLA, and the stock price is this thing right here. And then basically we are done. And then lastly, the supervisor tells us that everything worked great. So basically we have the stock ticker is Tesla, the stock price is this thing right here, and we have also our news. So I think this is working great. By the way, you can also use another tool, or maybe you can connect this tool that you get the news stored on your local disk or whatever, but I want to make this quick and easy. I just want that you know how to use webhooks with n8n. This is the most important thing here. So basically our agent is working. Now we need, of course, our custom tool. So once again we press plus. Now we come to the custom tool because we see that this thing is working. So we simply throw in this custom tool. And now we give this custom tool, of course, also the name. So we connect it first. We make it big here, create new. We give it the name Create Sheets. The description, use this tool to create Google Sheets. We do not want to have any icon here, but what's important for us is the input schema because we want to have this in clear data. And here on input schema, you see we have property, type, description, and if it's required or not. So we simply press add item, and the first item on property, we can simply type in what we want to have. Like for example, stock ticker. Then the type, what's the type here? It's of course a string. The description, let's just say stock ticker. Once again, you can write this big or small, however you want. And this field should be of course a required field. Then once again, add item. What we want to have right now is the price, of course. Then the type of the price is of course not necessarily a string, but a number. And the description is once again price. And also this should be a required field. And what's important right now is this JavaScript function. You can simply scroll down and you can press on see example. And there you have your whole example. You can use any libraries imported in Flowise. You can use properties specialized in input schema as variables. You can get default flow config. You can get custom variables, and important, must return a string value at the end of the function. And here you also have this custom code. And basically we can simply use this code and just change a few things. This code is nearly fine for us. What we need to change is, of course, the URL. We need to use the URL that we get from n8n, and we will do this right now. And the method is, of course, also not get, but post. And if you are not a coder, like, don't worry. You can also simply copy all of this, throw it into ChatGPT, and describe ChatGPT exactly what you want to have. Basically, let's just do this so that we do not have to code ourselves. So what we want to do is to simply copy all of this code. Now we come into ChatGPT, and in ChatGPT we type in something like this: to edit this code. Then we throw in the code, of course, and then we tell ChatGPT our goal. My goal is to make a post request. I want to send two values, stock ticker and price. And now you can simply send this out and ChatGPT will give you the right code. So basically here is your code modified and so on with stock ticker and stock price. Here we open up Canvas automatically. This is right now not that important for you. This also works without Canvas. You can simply use ChatGPT or whatever LLM you want to use. And there we have it. By the way, every line that is green will not get executed. So you see the stuff from previous that is just for description is also included. And here you also see this, the URL. Here ChatGPT tells you replace with your API endpoint, but I think this should normally work. So what we do right now is to simply copy all of this code. We delete this code and throw in our new code. And right now we need, of course, our URL so that we can work with this thing. So let's just get this URL, and for that we need to come into n8n. Right now we are in n8n, we press create new workflow, and we press plus here, and what we want to have, of course, is the on Webhook call, because we want to have a HTTP request. For the purpose of this tutorial, we leave it as the test URL, but if you want to go into the production, you need to use the production URL later, but let's just leave it as the test URL. The HTTP method is right now post and not get. The path is fine. The authentication is at none. We do not want to have any authentication. We simply want to accept the data that comes through. And the response should be, of course, immediately, so that this thing is fast. So let's just use our test URL. We simply copy this test URL. Then we come back into Flowise. We want to delete this URL right now. But remember to do not delete anything else. We include our new URL. And then we are basically done here. What we want to do right now is to simply press add, because right now we are connected. We press save. Then we come back into n8n. We simply press listen for a test event. I simply want to see if our data comes through. Then we come back into Flowise and we do, like, once again, come on, this should be easy. Tesla news and price. We simply send this out once again. And then our agent should go on and simply search once again for all the news and the prices about Tesla. The second agent will extract our values and send these values with our custom tool. Let's just see if this is working. And as soon as this gets sent, we will trigger n8n, of course. And we got this thing here back. Our supervisor at the end tells us that it used 1, 2, 3, 4 times the search engine and 1 time the create sheets agent. So this seems to work. If we come also here up a little bit. So first the research agent gives us all this research. Then the supervisor triggers once again the sheets agent. The sheets agent uses the custom tool, the create sheets agent, and the supervisor tells us that everything worked. Now let's just come back into n8n and see if we got the data, and there we have the data. So the data is basically included here. We have everything here that we need in order to work. So our webhook works. This is how you can connect, by the way, any webhook. You can simply use this webhook node, then you go on test URL or production URL. As soon as you want to have this active, you need to use the production URL. So you would go into Flowise or for wherever you want to call this. And here on this code, of course, let's just see, you need to include then the production URL, and then you can call this without pressing fetch test event or test workflow or whatever. What we want to do right now is of course to work with this webhook data that we get here. Before we include Google Sheets, let's just actually see, I have sent it once again an event, if we have on schema everything that we need. If we scroll down, you see we have in the body the stock ticker and the stock price. And also let's just actually check if this is correct. 293.04, 292.98. So I think this is correct. I think this is just marginal, so these are just a few cents. This is most likely just because of the fluctuation of the closing price. Actually, if we Google TSLA, here on the Nasdaq we have exactly this price, 293.04. We use of course the Google search and not TradingView, so basically we are correct by the cent. So now let's just use here Google Sheets, we press plus. Of course we use Google Sheets once again. Google, let's just say Sheets. We use of course a append row in a sheet. Now we need to connect our Google Sheets account, of course, the resource sheet within a document. The operation is append row, and then we need to choose from the list. So you need to choose the documents and also the sheets. So let's just do this. I just want to use this sheet. It's called n8n Test. Yes, this is here in German, but you can also make this however you want. And I have included stock ticker and price because here I want to include the stock ticker and the price. Then we come back to n8n, of course. Then we chose from list. It's basically n8n Test, so this thing right here. Then we use from list. It's the first page. We want to map everything manually, and here you see the values to send, the stock ticker and the price. This is just because I have written this stock ticker and price. And now we need to map this. So if you scroll down, the stock ticker is of course this thing down here. We use these variables. Then we use the price as variable, so we include also the price here. There we are included. Now we can simply press that step, and now we should write the stock ticker TSLA and the price of this right here into our Google Sheets, and boom, there we have it. So what we want to do right now is of course to test this workflow. Right now, we should basically wait for a trigger event. Then we come back into Flowise. We use our chat here. And let's just say Meta, or actually Apple, price and ticker. I do not want to have any news because we simply want to test this as fast as possible. The supervisor triggers the research agent. It should basically find out that the Apple ticker is not Apple, but actually AAPL. There you see it. And the price is, let's just see, 241.4. And we also used the create sheets. So let's just see the stock ticker AAPL 241.4. And there we are. The price is 241.4. And the ticker is of course AAPL. If we come back into n8n, you see that this thing worked here. And if we come into our Google Sheets, boom, there we have it. AAPL 241.4. Let's just make another test. This time we do it different. We want to send this workflow from inactive to active so that this thing always works in the background. We can control it here on executions. Then I come back into Flowise and I simply want to tell Amazon ticker and price. We send it out. I also have a typo, but don't worry. Research agent gets triggered. It's of course AMSN, and here's the price. Then the create sheets got triggered. Let's just see in Google Sheets. And it does not work, and I hope you understand why it doesn't work. Please remember, come back into editor, go into Webhooks. This time we use of course the production URL, because this thing is public. So if you want to send this public, you need to remember you need to use the public URL. So you copy the public URL, then you send it to active, got it, Flowise. We come into our custom tool, we go into this code snippet, we need to delete the old URL, include the new one, press save, and right now we need to ask the same question once again. So right now it's active, in Google Sheet nothing happened, but we come back right now, Amazon ticker and price, once again with a typo, I send it out, research agent gets triggered, we have our info, the sheets agent gets triggered. Now this thing is executed. we come into our Google Sheets and boom, there we have it, everything is connected. And by the way, if you want to make this workflow more useful, we would do something like this. News, summary, for example. So there we have it. Right now we press save. Then we would come back here, of course. We need to add another item. The next item is, this time, summary. It's of course a string, summary of news. We press save. What we want to do right now is to come back here on the editor. We send it to inactive once again. We need to come to our test URL because we want to test this out. Then I copy these. We come back to Flowise. Once again, back on this custom tool. We insert this URL also once again. And what we want to do right now is, of course, to also send out the summary. So I simply copy once again this code. This code is working for me, but I want to add another value. It's the summary. Then we include our code and send this out. We will get our new code where also the summary is included. So we copy the code. We come back into Flowise. We delete this old code, include the new one, press save. We come back into n8n, listen for test event. Make sure to also use here the test URL, by the way. And right now let's just extract, for example, NVIDIA News. NVIDIA News, stock price and ticker. Research agent gets triggered from the supervisor. The agent will search the web via the SERP API. And you see everything got triggered, so 6 times the search and also the create sheet event. I also had to fix my typos once again here and make sure to use the right URL. Now let's just come into n8n and see if this thing comes through. Right now you see this thing came through. Right now you see we have the stock ticker, the price and the summary. And this is basically the most important thing right here. So we can make this workflow a little bit bigger and a little bit better. So we would basically come into this sheet here. And here we would also, let's just delete this old data. Here we would also add, for example, the summary. And now we come back into n8n, of course. We come into Google Sheets. We want to add manually. Here we have right now also the summary. And what we do is to throw in also the summary. So right now we would have something that would make sense. This would be relatively cool. So if you press test workflow once again, and let's just see. Let's just say meta, news and price, for example. Then you have every single thing included in Google Sheets. So our supervisor triggers our research agent. The research agent will go on, search the web for all the newest information about Meta in this example. There we have all this information. Then the supervisor goes on and triggers our Sheets agent once again. The Sheets agent will make the summary, and as soon as it has the summary, it will also write here everything in our Google Sheet. So let's just come into our Google Sheet. Right now you see Meta, the stock price, and here's the summary, Meta platforms, the best money, and so on. Here you see basically the whole summary that you need to have here. So basically you are up to date really fast with this thing. You can simply come back to Flowise, type in what you want, and you will get added everything in Google Sheets really fast. And remember, if you want to have this active all the time, go from inactive to active, but then you need to copy this production URL so that you can always have this working for you. So in this video you have learned a lot. You have learned how you can use Flowise to build AI agents. Flowise is cool because with Flowise you can make something really fast. But the most important thing, at least how I see it, was in this video that you understand how powerful webhooks are. With webhooks we can control n8n from everywhere, from other apps. You can also include normal webhooks and crawl, for example, different web pages and do really a lot. The webhook node is powerful, so maybe you should use it. And remember, yes, you maybe need some code from time to time, but just ask ChatGPT, it will be really easy. See you of course in the next one. In this video I just want to show you a quick workflow that I have found as a template. And here we have also a perfect explanation. This is basically also that you can see that we can use these webhooks really broad. So this workflow basically gets triggered from Telegram events. And if you press on it, you see this is basically a webhook. The webhook is simply post. So this is basically the same thing as a Telegram trigger node, but this time we will call it via webhook. And if you want to know how you can connect this thing, he has also a really nice description here. Everything that you need to do is to use this URL, Here you give in basically your bot token, and lastly you give the URL where you want to send your stuff. So that's basically of course this URL. You find your token of course from your bot father, as you already know, and the URL is simply the HTTPS endpoint that handles the bot updates. And for verification you need to type in this stuff here. If everything is okay, you will get this code. So you can basically just type in here your bot token and then the right URL, throw it into an empty browser, so you would simply open up this browser, include this URL, send it out, and then in order to see if it works you do the same thing with this URL, and then you can access this from your normal Telegram account. So if you want to test this out, you would basically simply press on these, then you can copy this first link, we throw it into an empty browser, we insert it here, then what we need to do is of course to delete all of this. Please make sure to also delete the curly brackets. Here we need to insert our API key from the bot father. So we insert it, excuse me, I have to pixelate these right now. Then we come to the end of the URL and we also need to delete this thing here and insert the URL from n8n. For me it's of course this URL, and then you can simply send this out and you will get a result that looks something like this. Okay, true, result true, and so on. And what you do next is of course to see if this is correct. So we would come back into n8n, you press on these, and then you use your second URL. So you would simply copy this URL. We come back into a new browser once again. We insert this. Here where my bot token is inserted, we need to delete this of course. And insert once again our API key that I have to pixelate once again. So we would simply delete everything, including the curly brackets. So we would delete this, insert our API key, and then send this out. And then we will get, of course, this thing here, okay, true, result, and so on. And you get all this information. And then if you come back into n8n and you press test workflow, you can basically use Telegram to trigger these. If I am here in this workflow, so I am connected with this n8n course test, if I simply type in hey and send it out, you see that this node gets triggered now because we use a webhook for these. And so we can basically connect every single thing with webhooks in n8n. These webhooks are great, but like for most of the time, especially if you want to use Telegram for something, the normal Telegram node would be easier to use. I have to personally tell you, I do not like to call this via webhook because the Telegram node is easier to use, it's faster to use. You already have to make a bot account, so why not just use the Telegram trigger node? But generally speaking, this is also a workflow that you can play with. You find it, of course, in the templates. This was just a quick example so that you understand that you can call webhooks via a gazillion different ways, and of course you need to find the right way for you. It's basically always the same thing. You can trigger such a workflow from outside, from wherever you want. But most of the time I do not use this that often, because for trigger nodes I like my normal trigger nodes. If I use Flowise, it's a bit different. Here it makes of course a lot of sense. And some people also use this to start new workflows that they want to trigger with other n8n workflows, but I like the normal call n8n workflow tool a lot more. So basically you have a lot of options with these webhooks, you can play with them a little bit. This section was short but sweet. You have learned two of the most important things, at least how I see it. First of all, you have learned how to use the arrow trigger node. It's really easy. You basically make your arrow trigger node. You connect, for example, Gmail or Slack or whatever you want. You make a test event and you simplify the prompt so that you get the email that you want to have. Please make sure to use the right time. And then you can integrate this workflow basically in every workflow that you want. Also here you need to make sure that the time zone is used correctly so that you don't get any problems. And then every time as soon as one of these workflow fails, you will get a mail immediately and then you can fix it. This is of course really practical if you have something in production, either for yourself, an automation that needs to run for you or for your business, or if you have hosted a chatbot for other people, or if you have a business and you need to assure that the bots or automations are working for other people. And then we took a closer look at the webhook node. The webhook node is also really powerful because you can access n8n from everywhere. We made this example from Flowise. Everything that you can do is, for example, make a custom tool into Flowise, send a request to n8n and trigger your workflow. This is really powerful and you can do this from everywhere. You also saw that you can use, for example, these nodes to trigger Telegram, to trigger new workflows, to trigger sub workflows, to trigger whatever. You can use them really broad, so you should take a closer look at them. So basically you have learned a lot, and I want to tell you what learning is. Learning is same circumstances but different behavior. Maybe you did not know that you can use a trigger node in order to find out that your workflows are failing. Please just do it. And also use the HTTP request node from time to time. Use these webhooks, play with them a little bit. Only then you have learned. And I also want to tell you what good learners do. Of course, they learn together. So if you could share this course, this would really mean the world to me. Maybe it also means the world to the other person, and if the other person gets value out from this course, they will describe the value to you because you have told them. So thank you for that, and I'll see you, of course, in the next section.